Hey everybody! Welcome to DappRadar, the Halloween AMA we have together with Alice from SecondLive. You don't see her on the camera, but trust me, she's here. With Mohamed from from Animoca Brands and Crazy Defense Heroes, and Toby from the Bornless. Welcome everybody. Just a quick reminder before we get started. So this is the AMA for the Halloween hunt on DappRadar. These guys have supported us with awesome prizes. So after the AMA, go to DappRadar.com, subscribe. What is it called? Make an account and start searching for those Halloween items, and you can win awesome prizes. That being said, Alice, Mohamed, Toby, how are you guys doing? Toby.
Yeah, doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's busy time here, lots to do, trying to get ready for the winter. How about you guys?
You, Mo.
All good on my end. Also preparing for winter. It's probably not going to be as cold here as it is over there, but we're still getting ready for that too.
And what about you, Alice?
Hey, very nice meeting Robert, Toby, and Mohamed here. Well, our winter, I think, is kind of not that cold. Preparing for our new product function, our Halloween or World Cup event, kind of that kind of things. Yeah. Pretty
awesome. So. Just so that everybody who's listening and joining gets a chance to know you guys, please introduce yourself, explain your role at the company you work for, and do an elevator pitch. 1 minute, explain the project you work on, and excite the community. Toby, kicking off with you.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, my name's Toby. I'm one of the founders of Cathedral Studios. It's a new game studio we founded in February. We've been working on our flagship Unreal Engine game. We started working on it July last year, so we've been working on it for a long time. It's currently in closed early access. Everybody's interested in playing it. You might be able to get an access key floating around. It's a FPS horror survival game. So it's a spooky game set in the 1950s, competitive FPS. It's a little bit like Battle Royale, but with a kind of horror twist. Yeah, lots of big content coming, and follow us on Twitter or check out our website, thebornless.com, if you wanted to dig into it maybe while we're on the call.
Awesome. And you, Mohamed, enlighten us.
Hey everyone, so I'm Mohamed. I'm a game designer at Animoca Brands. The game design department at Animoca works across a lot of different games, both internally and with our portfolio companies. So it's been very interesting, making sure that we're building really fun games that players can enjoy across all platforms.
Awesome. Thank you, Mo. And Alice.
Hey. Hey everybody. So this is SecondLive. So I'm the co-founder of SecondLive. SecondLive is a 3D BNB chain now, and we are expanding to more public chains, and basically providing a 3D virtual world that we want to be parallel to your real life, and we are offering the infra things. That means our players can use our to build the space they want or in their imagination. So it's a metaverse platform for everybody, basically. And we are upgrading our product function. Let's say maybe next time we have many things in on SecondLive's platform, because in our space for the AMA function already, yeah. So that's what.
So everybody's working on an exciting project. Animoca Brands with Crazy Defense Heroes is a already established name. SecondLive has been around for a bit and is heavily developing. The Bornless is about to hit the market in early access. Super exciting to see your products and those of your industry peers hitting the market and being touched upon by an audience. But how do you look at Web3 adoption? Like and blockchain gaming, of course, in particular. Like what's the progress we have made as an industry since, let's say, since NFT adoption happened in early 2021?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I guess I would kick off and say one of the things that I'm noticing more and more is some of these big companies, big organizations introducing restrictions. So I guess Steam is the big one, introducing restrictions on Web3 games. Apple now with their restriction on NFT purchases. Minecraft banning NFTs in their kind of ecosystem. I think these are all actually, even though these restrictions can seem problematic, and I'm sure they are for many projects, these are like as big brands start to understand the space, and the kind of filtering of bad actors is starting to feel like it's happening. And as these bad actors get filtered out, it means that brands like Starbucks, for example, are able to get interested in Polygon. So I think it's happening. I don't really like the phrase mass adoption because it's kind of a bit ambiguous, but I think the stigma is wearing out, and I think we're making progress. And their markets obviously can be quite good for that as well.
Absolutely. How do you look at that, Mohamed? I mean, you have Crazy Defense Heroes used to be a free-to-play mobile game, and that's been repurposed into a play-to-earn, one of the bigger play-to-earn games on the market. What is your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, at the core, we still have to create very fun games. And I think, Crazy Defense Heroes, it's a card battling tower defense game, which is definitely sort of like a nice integration of genres. And so we really want to see what is the value that the technology can provide for this kind of experience for players. And one of the things we also want to do is sort of like ease this technology into the experience. So it's not something that, it's a very conscious design decision, and we want to make sure that, first of all, it provides value to the player, it provides utility to the player, it allows player to build a sense of ownership culture, but at the same time, we want to still maintain, the fun gameplay. We want to ensure that existing players, they don't feel suddenly alienated with the introduction of the new technology. So it's something we want to introduce over time. And we also feel that there's a lot of room to build on top of what's already existing. It's just about what integrates really well with this kind of genre and what does our player base look like. Because, different games have different player personas. And so we don't want to box ourselves in by, just focusing on the personas, but we do see the personas as sort of lenses into, the different player behaviors and motivations. And we want to see where this technology aligns with that in terms of our players specifically, demographically, as well as, the different age groups, as well as, the intrinsic versus extrinsic discussion for especially in progression. So we definitely want to factor all these in, but I think for us, it's about maintaining value, utility, and introducing the technology over time so that it doesn't alienate the experience, as well as ensuring that we don't introduce it in a manner that gives certain players advantages over others, because that's also very important to keep that ecosystem balance.
Absolutely. And one of the things, I love talking about mass adoption because it's such a, I know you hate it, Toby, but it's such a concept that's easy to understand for people. In the past couple of let's say the past 6 months, past year, another thing popped up is metaverse. Alice, you with SecondLive are strongly busy with developing a virtual world where people can socialize and express themselves creatively. How do you look at the progress that has been made in the industry this year?
Aside from my opinion, I think it goes pretty well. I say that because I think from SecondLive's opinion, the first is that we want to involve. First step is we want to involve in more crypto users. That's the first step, right? We want all these DeFi gamer. They go to have some fun there, to make a lot of events there, or to create something new in a very creative way. And besides this, how to involve in more traditionally, how to involve in more Web2 users. What we are doing now, I'm not sure if I should go public now, but yeah, I just say it now. We are very fun and a very new function. Actually, maybe we'll public it. That means we will launch. That is, you can use your and you can sing and dancing, SecondLive. Popular Japanese virtual idol, I think her name Suki something, very the most popular virtual idol in Japan, girl. She has a lot of fans. They made a lot, I think hundreds of songs and the dancing, moving video for this virtual idol. So that kind of technology and the product feature we will launch, maybe stream. In this way, we think that not only the crypto native users, but also the Web2 traditional users, the SecondLive's metaverse, and to have some fun there, because basically has his own avatar and can dance there, and you can create battle with some very cool music and movement, that kind of thing. So maybe next time when we are in SecondLive space, in your avatar, and you sing, dance first, and then we do some battle, dancing battle things. We are creating more and more fun content. So it's not just some staking things. It's not just some a space you just not that kind of boring sense, but more and more fun contents. Way more and more real users will get involved. Yeah, that's our way.
Also sounds a bit like you're implementing elements from VR chat, like people having their own avatar, their own persona, and at the same time being in a world that's not about making progress, that's not about leveling up per se, but just about being together and enjoying yourself. But it's exciting, and maybe we will have a dance battle next year when we have another AMA, Alice.
Yeah. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Okay, I can't say I'm looking forward. I'm not a good dancer, but okay. So no, we like I mentioned mass adoption before. Let's not call it mass adoption. Let's call it.
You can call it mass adoption. It's okay. I have some questions.
Let's call it the next wave.
Yeah.
So what elements do you think in that's crucial, either in your project's development or in the industry as a whole, to bring on the next wave? And I will start with you again, Toby.
Yeah, I think it's all about the quality bar, isn't it? The quality bar needs to come up. I think that when you get this kind of injection of capital into a new technology, it's very easy for teams to spin up pitch decks and raise money and make products. But it doesn't necessarily mean that those products are good and that people actually want those products. Like there's a lot of speculation and money, and there's lots of products that show up. But making sure that those products are actually the products people want to buy is not the same as like raising $50 million. Those are different things. Like, and I think quality bar in gaming is coming up. I think it is coming up, and I think bear markets are really good for that. You know, businesses to be able to survive bear markets and in some countries recessions shows product is kind of king. Obviously, distribution as well is the other side of that, and being able to capture a market, capture people's minds with a product that they actually really want to experience is also important. But yeah, I think that as the quality bar comes up, the amount of interested people will also. I think that there's also there's a lot to be said for the kind of development in infrastructure that's going on, but the way in which it's becoming smoother and smoother. You know, it's we're filling up the bucket together and making the infrastructure kind of like smoother, cleaner, easier. Whether it's for some games, custodial wallets is the solution. For other games, it's integrating pre-existing, really easy to use infrastructure. As everything becomes smoother and the experience becomes less about. If the barrier to entry for a product is that you are really experienced and know how crypto works, then it's not a very big market. And the barrier to entry has to be, I like games and I want to play a fun game. But if I have to understand how a wallet works and what crypto is and what the blockchain is in order to experience that, then that's a big barrier to entry. So you know, whatever credit card on ramps, there's lots of interesting things going on.
That's basically one of the things that Reddit did very well recently with their NFTs.
Yeah.
But Reddit did it on Polygon. Crazy Defense Heroes is also tied to Polygon with their reward system. How do you look at that, Mohamed?
Yeah, so I think what Toby was saying is spot on, and this is something I've talked to a lot of game designers about. You know, when we look at, especially in the free-to-play model, right, we talk a lot about top of the funnel and usability, right? We really need to make sure that it's a frictionless experience and that it's very easy for players to jump right in and play their first game. So this is something I think a lot about. In terms of, you know, mass adoption, you know, the word we're trying to avoid using. One of the things that also, you know, comes into mind is what is going to be the application or game that's going to bring in, you know, because it takes one really strong, you know, game to really bring in, you know, a lot of the traditional gamers, you know, newer gamers across all generations. So there has to be a really good application of that. And I think once a really good application of that happens, you know, in hindsight, it's going to be like, yeah, but that was so obvious. We should have done that from the beginning. And that's sort of like what we're working towards at Animoca. So we're really thinking, you know, how to create, first of all, what Toby was saying, you know, increase the quality bar, make sure that, you know, we're delivering on what, you know, players expect, you know, a fun experience, an experience with, you know, solid progression and monetization, an experience that's tied to a, you know, a strong fantasy and that delivers on the player's expected fantasy. And so these are things we're constantly thinking about, something that's, you know, aesthetically pleasing, you know, visual and audio are on point. The kinesthetics and the movement and the game feel is great. So, you know, we really want to up the bar in quality. And I think the other thing, which, you know, Toby mentioned, is usability and top of funnel, just making sure that the experience is frictionless for players. I think that's very important if you know, if Web3 games are going to be adopted by, you know, non-Web3 gamers or people that don't have an interest in the technology, or maybe haven't been exposed to the technology, because, you know, that's another thing that we have to think about. You know, there's a lot of places around the world that, you know, they haven't been exposed to the technology. They don't know about the technology. And, you know, maybe we can teach them the technology, or maybe we can, again, pace the experience so that they don't need to really learn about it. They can just have fun playing the game, and, you know, that transition happens naturally. And so these are things we're definitely thinking about here at Animoca.
If I may ask, Mohamed, what's so with Crazy Defense Heroes? Now there's a code in the game. You need to sync that code with the official website, and that will allow you to claim your rewards. So that means that you need to have a MetaMask wallet connected to the website, and then you can claim your rewards. We got a question from Akman in the chat, and he asks about the follow-up for Crazy Defense Heroes. Is this one of the things that you're working on right now to make that the next iteration in the series more seamless and smooth, and to ditch or hide the MetaMask part of the whole interaction?
Right. So I can't talk directly about what we have planned for CDH going forward, but I will say that there's a lot of interesting things in the works, you know, across, you know, game design as well as tokenomics. And we think that what's happening on the official website is actually something that can be improved further and can be used as a way to deliver even more utility and valuable experiences to you know, the game's fans and players. And we're really excited to show that off at the right time.
Yeah, cool. To be honest, just for the record, I really thought it was a smart way to enhance a game experience with the Web3 layer. It didn't require that much change to the game itself, but if you are a Web3 enthusiast and you found out, then you're able to make that connection. So I thought it was interesting.
And we're just getting started with that. There's a lot of things that we have planned. I think it's just about timing and pacing the experience appropriately for the players.
Yeah, awesome. And Alice, when you are looking at attracting the next wave of users, like what is your focus? I see the connection isn't. Her connection is kind of bad. Let's try again. Let's wait a few more seconds. Alice? Okay. That's a pity. Alice, whenever your connection is back, jump in. Okay. Okay, she's now leaving the channel. She might come back in a bit. So now, making blockchain games requires lots of innovation to overcome that technological hurdle that possibly scares lots of consumers. If you look at your current project, what is the most out of the box idea that you have implemented and that you're really proud of? Mohamed,
sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
As
Alice. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's credit guys. Mohamed, I will get back to you in a bit. Alice. So what is the crucial element that's important for your project to bring in the next wave of users?
Yeah, that's a very good. We are focusing on is the barrier for players for metaverse. So let's say begin with a PC. Actually, it was pretty hard to use your metaverse, you know, because they things and your so what we will launch our mobile. That means someday let's do a virtual AMA versus 3D space. You just see on the button and a website for you on your mobile. Much easier for you to come in and to participate virtual space. We are continuing our product to make the user to use your product. I think all of the Web3 projects, yeah, for users.
Oh, yeah, awesome, Alice. I have to say, like, the connection is really interrupted all the time. So in the middle of your sentence, there's a second of silence. No, you can't help it. It's VPN. It's a connection issue. No worries. But I just want to let you know that the sound isn't that great. So.
Okay. My bad. I appreciate this. I think from you guys talk things. So you guys just talk audience here.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so Mohamed, back to you. So blockchain requires innovation, lots of development. What is the most out-of-the-box original idea that you've implemented in your current project?
So I think what we're working on, especially as the technology is developing every day. So I know I'm being a bit cryptic about this, but what we're working on for what's to come in the future, I think is really exciting. One of the things we're very focused on, which I brought up earlier, is building culture around ownership. We really feel that the way we're looking at IPs, ecosystems, I think is very exciting. I think it's going to allow players to really, explore these worlds in really interesting ways. I think that having that, ecosystem across, the IP as well means that the IP is growing stronger, and that value and utility and the economies are stronger, better rooted in a stronger foundation over time. And I think that the player experience, especially, if we see where the technology is headed and we're focused on, like Toby was saying, upping the quality bar across all disciplines, not just, code and art, but again, also our understanding of game economies, our understanding of ecosystems and IP, understanding about, the different genres and how the technology can develop these genres. And as we understand, Web3 brings in a whole bunch of other player personas into the mix. As we understand these better, I think that, when we look a few years into the future, I think we'd have very strong IPs and ecosystems that within them have very interesting games that hit that bar of quality that Toby's talking about, that gamers are going to appreciate.
And what about you, Toby? Like, what is the one thing that you're super proud of and that you think will do very well?
It's a great question. I mean, I'm proud of the whole team. They do great work. I think one part of our approach is not trying to reinvent the wheel. The games industry is full of like absolute Goliaths who have been making incredible experiences for years. The term metaverse is an interesting one. I feel like the metaverse has existed for a long time now. Like, you know, when I come home from school on Xbox Live and we plug in our headsets and we go into the metaverse, right? And you play Halo together. I feel like the technology is already there. So one thing that we're trying to do, our quote innovation, is to try and do things by the book as much as possible. You know, our account system is Microsoft PlayFab. We use all of Epic Games' like core product suite, Unreal Engine, MetaHuman, Easy Anti-Cheat, Quixel. Like we're as a team, Cathedral Studios, really trying to integrate with the existing software ecosystems that work and are tested, and that allows you to be part of the this new wave of quality, like by using these systems and tools that are industry standard in gaming already, and by participating, not by trying to reinvent the wheel on everything. I think genres are a really important point to kind of talk about. Is genres exist for a reason. People love horror, people love FPS, people love racing games or card games. Like, these are genres that already have users who can recognize a genre and they love that genre and they'll try out that experience. And I think with Web3 games, we almost created our own genre for a little while, and I feel like that was the wrong approach. Web3 games isn't. I mean, it can be a Web3 genre in some games, like economy games are a valid genre for sure. But I think making sure that if you're going to break a genre trope, that you do it for a really good reason, and that it's an informed decision. So as our biggest innovation is we build all our Web3 layers on top of by-the-book strategies. You know, all of our consultation, whether it's ex-Riot, ex-Blizzard, ex-Ubisoft, all of the people that we're working with, they know how to make really, really good games. So we listen to them and make sure that what we're building integrates into the best possible way to make really good games. So yeah, using existing infrastructures is kind of our innovation, if you like, and building microservices that exist on top of those services. PlayFab is a good example.
I think, like, if you look at 2-3 years ago, like the first blockchain games I got in touch with was Spells of Genesis, mobile game. Like, it's you need to compare it a bit with Bubble Bubble. Now you need to shoot a ball and to remove some objects on your screen. After that, there was a whole bunch of card games, one of which still exists, Gods Unchained.
Yep.
And that's kind of typical for early development, because let's face it, the turn-based game or a kind of static game is easier to develop, and the early blockchain game developers were not real game developers because they were working at Ubisoft, Microsoft, and all those gaming companies. So like, what I find exciting personally is that those pioneers, they have kind of they didn't like produce the Assassin's Creed of this world, but they showed people what is possible. And now, like, I'm not going to say we are converting, because there's still lots of resistance towards Web3 game development, but there's at least that now there's more openness, and more game developers are jumping on our boat to test out this exciting metaverse. And I think it's super cool now also to see somebody like you, Toby, who comes from a movie background, that you jump into this industry in a similar way that like nowadays, what's his name? Epic Games, Tim, forgot the surname. But to know that the guys from Epic Games are also middling into terms like metaverse and blockchain gaming, and yeah, to me that's super exciting. So Mohamed, you made Crazy Defense Heroes as a free-to-play title. Animoca Brands has done Formula 1 Delta Time, which unfortunately has been canned. But now, like the many other racing games in the market from the Rev team, the Tower Initiative, where you're part of, has a new game in production. Moving back to the early days, Crazy Defense Heroes was a mobile game, free to play, and you guys integrated Tower and came up with the first NFTs for the Crazy Defense series. Can you enlighten us a bit how that early process was, and is there anything that you would have wished you would know in advance?
So it's very interesting because I wasn't there during those very early days you were talking about, but having recently joined the team, I think there's learnings every day. The industry as a whole, the technology, games, and hardware capabilities, cost of communication, all these things are changing day in, day out. So there's so much we're learning, and I think, going forward, I think one of the mantras that's guiding us, or one of the phrases that's guiding us, or our pillars when we think about what we're doing going forward, is thinking a lot about, how does this technology fit into the player experience, working back from the desired player experience and building accordingly. That's something we think is super important when it comes to hitting that bar of quality. One of the interesting things as well is, Animoca has a very powerful way of, being present across all these different genres, all these different platforms, and that's giving us a lot of insight day in, day out on how to approach these new waters. And I think if we look at everything we've been learning and we apply that, I think it's only gonna get better as we go into the future.
It's actually exciting, Mohamed, that like you said, Animoca invests a lot, buys studios, develops their own games. Personally, I'm super excited about the concept of interoperability. I mean, the moment you have a finger in 20 types of IP, I mean, you can basically create, almost like a micro metaverse for your own IP, connecting every game with each other through an overarching ecosystem, universe, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, so interoperability is a very interesting point for me because, building games is hard enough.
Oh yeah.
Right. And building, project pipelines that have to account for, items in the game or avatars in the game that can work across an ecosystem is even harder. And having different game teams have their processes and pipelines and communication structures centered around that is even more challenging. But one of the things that I think is also important to consider is that economies get stronger as other smaller economies are connected to it. So we can definitely benefit from something like that and leverage that. The question is, because when we talk about interoperability, It's a very hard word to say.
Yeah, we need to change that.
People automatically assume, the end goal, the Ready Player One metaverse,
Yeah.
One item here, working there, and all these companies joining forces to create, items that work in each other's games and avatars that work in each other's games. I think about it more as economies that get stronger when they're connected together, and that can start off as something very small, right? Like even something like having UGC from one game tie into another. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way is having items that can be sold in a marketplace that's connected to another marketplace that players can use to buy items from for another game. So just having stronger economies is a really good first step, and one that has already been leveraged by companies like Valve, with the Steam marketplace. But I think if we take that to stronger, or even further degrees, I think we can get really strong economies, and that could be a strong launch point for interoperability. I think it's how you say it. So this is how I'm thinking about it for now.
Mohamed, which engine do you guys use?
For which game?
For Crazy Defense Heroes.
I need to get back to you on that one.
Fine, yeah. Because basically, to add on to your point about game development's hard, I was going to say, if you look at that problem of interoperability, the problem of interoperability is not. If you're talking about interoperability in gaming, the issue is not Web3 tech. The issue is gaming tech, I believe. And the issue is like standardized game development systems that can cross over really easily. A good example in Unreal Engine is the Epic Mannequin. So anyone who's watching has seen those like behind the scenes clips of game development. You'll see those mannequins T-posing. There's a different mannequin in Unity. There's a different mannequin in Epic. That's a standardized, rig for characters. And if all games use the same rig, it makes it much easier to pick a character in one game to another. If all characters are of a similar scale, and you haven't made one 10 meters tall and one 1 meter tall, and that you're all using the same metrics and the same numbers, then interoperability becomes really easy. Games developers standardizing games development makes that possible.
It's not, to me, it's not only the rig. It's also metadata, right? I mean, if the metadata says the character has red hair, a green face, and a blue nose, then it doesn't matter what type of rig you use, because if the metadata makes sure that you get a green face, blue nose, and red hair in every game, then your avatar looks kind of the same.
Sort of. This is where you can have all sorts of awesome metadata, but if you're not standardizing in Unreal Engine or Unity, then the metadata is useless. And having the same character gens is impossible unless we're all using the same character gen, unless we're all using the same tech in games development. A good example would be like a character creator in Elden Ring. Unless everyone is using that same character creator, you can't have interoperability in the same way. If we get down to the minutiae of game development, we can talk about the file format. If all characters are being imported as an FBX file and have the same material configuration, then you can take that FBX file and you can put it into multiple different games, assuming you're using the same rig. So the tech in games development is the problem. Here's an idea of the future for you. Is you can look at Epic. I really think highly of the way that Epic approach game development. I think Unreal Engine is awesome. Let's look at the gameplay ability system. This is a system that Fortnite uses. It's a standardized code base that they came up with for Polygon, and they made it open source and gave it to everyone, gave it to the Unreal Engine community. It's what we use for Bornless. And using the gameplay ability system, if all games use that, then it becomes easy to like stick one ability from one game into another game, and the whole code base becomes more systemized, similar to one another. Interoperability becomes more possible on a games development level. The metadata is a separate issue because the metadata doesn't tell the game anything, and the game has the code standardized across all of these titles. That's what I think games developers are working towards, is the ability to take your Fortnite character and put it in Bornless, down to the files, down to the formats, down to the programming, not in Web3. The Web3 interoperability is actually really straightforward, really easy. I could take an NFT, I could take a Bored Ape picture and display it in the Bornless really easily. We can do that now. We can do that today because it's just a PNG. You just pull it from the blockchain to there. You know, that's really straightforward. When you're starting to deal with 3D models and programming, the systems in the engine are the complicated part. And that's the next problem to solve for interoperability. It takes a while because it's really hard.
Right now, like interoperability is often based on a Web3 blockchain code. So let's say, you know, I own a Bored Ape, and because I have the Bored Ape, I unlock an ape character in the sandbox, right? I mean, that's the sandbox has created an ape character especially for me, and because I own that NFT, I unlock that character. That's a form that I personally I see that as a form of marketing. It's a marketing type of interoperability. But you're describing is almost like real interoperability. Like, you know, it's the next step after this.
Yeah, because if everything has to be manual, the sandbox team are doing the manual thing. They're doing it really well. It's really interesting to see. They do everything manually. Like they're making all this stuff, and it's fantastic. But true interoperability is when we all share the same code and we move back and forth seamlessly. And I think Epic will be the one to crack that. I think they will. It's going to take a while, but I think they'll crack it. And I honestly think Fortnite will be a good place to watch for that because they're already starting to lean that way. That would be my one to watch, would be Unreal Engine for interoperability, I think.
And Mohamed, if you would look at the at interoperability and Epic Games and Fortnite, and do you agree with Toby on this, or do you see it differently?
So here's the thing, right? We're making progress every day. I just think it's very difficult to standardize. And I think it's, you know, having different companies try and standardize with each other, I think is I don't think it's going to be easy, especially given, you know, defensive business models, given IP and copywriting and IP ownership. So there's, you know, financial things that need to make sense. There's legal things that need to make sense. There's also, you know, processes. You know, different companies have different processes. And I know you were talking about standardizing these processes as part of, you know, it's not just the code base, it's also how they get the code.
Yeah.
But I just think, like, I agree with Toby, a lot of it is existing game systems. I just think we're very far from solving that.
Correct. Yeah. It has to be infrastructure, ultimately. And it's going to take ages. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah, awesome. Toby, so with the Bornless, now you're making a horror game. That's already pretty lately pretty popular, but still it's a niche in the gaming market. Then you're doing it with the Web3 element, even a deeper niche. But we've seen like many horror games like Left 4 Dead, of course Resident Evil series, Five Nights at Freddy's. Even my daughter, 7 years old, loves it. Hit mainstream and become super popular. So how do you position the Bornless within the gaming space and within the blockchain space in particular? Because you guys have kind of a unique product.
Yeah, I haven't talked about this, is the value of IP. and making sure that you're making something that's different, that stands out. Because if you're just making goop, right? If you're just making like another like near future shooter, or if you're just making something that's the same as everything else, then you either have to have the best distribution guy on the planet, or a really attractive economy model, or whatever it be. The horror, I would kind of push back on it being niche. I think it appears niche on the outset, but if you look at the numbers, horror games are like top 10 of the charts. There's always a horror game in the top 10. Horror is very sticky as well. Horror games, once people play them, they remember them, and they resurface. You can often see streamers playing the same horror game that they were playing 5 years ago every October, right? Horror games really sticky. I don't know if you guys have played ones on the call, like whether it's Silent Hill or Resident Evil or whatever those old horror games are. They're sticky. They stay with you, and I think that's a really good, cool genre. Whether or not you like scary games, I hate scary games, but I'll play them the same as everyone else. So horror, I think, is actually a really sticky genre. It's always somewhere in the top 10. Dead by Daylight's a good example at the moment. People still think Dead by Daylight, still love it. Left 4 Dead, you mentioned, is a fantastic example of a horror shooter. Really cool game. You can still boot that up and have fun. Even though it's really old, it's still a fun game. It's still good. You can still hop on with your friends. FPS also is worth mentioning that if you're going to target the PC audience, which we are, FPS is the one to go for. The free-to-play FPS is the most successful game model on PC. So marrying that with a nice, sticky horror kind of theme, and then also coming up with a unique IP, like Mohamed mentioned, is a good recipe. Getting all of those things right, there's no answer on how to do that. If it was, then everyone would do it. So it's a process. You work with your community, you work with your designers, you come up with a vision, and you try and execute it as best you can. And I feel like we're onto it. It's hard though. Getting it right is hard, and it's constant iteration. We encounter a new bug every week. But it's a process. I think that's the answer. It's also about understanding where your business like hangs amongst the competition. Like, we're not going to make Valorant overnight. We're a new studio, we're an indie studio. We're going to make a really unique horror FPS with different features that people haven't seen before. We're going to experiment, try some new things, because we haven't got $100 billion marketing budget to just sink and get a rush of players. It's a different kind of competition. You don't build a Valorant esports environment overnight. So making sure that you can make a really unique, sticky IP that has a quirk to it that people are like, oh, Bornless, that's different. That's a different way to do it. That's the approach that we're taking anyway. Hope that answers your question. Yeah, and
you mentioned before it's battle royale. Does it also feature asymmetric multiplayer?
So it's actually, the reason I mentioned battle royale is just because it's a similar genre. Our game is we take FPS game modes that people know, and then we put like a horror twist on it. So our first game mode is a little bit like Battle Royale. It's a little bit like Ground War. If you played any Ground War-based game modes, there's basically marks on the map that players compete for. They can scoop up resources and buy weapons and ammunition, a little bit like Battle Royale. But there's also this monster, this AI demon. In our first game mode, it's a Wendigo. And he is someone who you can spend resources to summon, and he attacks other teams. So it's got a little bit of an asymmetric twist. Yeah. You don't play as the demon yet, but you summon the demon to fight for you. So it's PvP VE essentially. And each new season we introduce a new game mode. So the next one is a little bit like Capture the Flag. Rather than a Wendigo, we've got a giant spider, which is going to be fun. And the idea is we capture a new phobia, take a game mode that people love, break it, remake it. That's the format.
Awesome. And what's on your roadmap, Mohamed? What's coming up from Crazy Defense Heroes in the months to come?
Yeah, so in the months to come, one of the things we're very excited for is, like I was telling you earlier, we have this website that serves as a companion to the main game. And we're definitely going to be utilizing this experience further and adding a lot of value to enhance that companion experience to the main game. There are other things in the works. I can't talk about them just yet, but stay tuned.
Awesome. There's a question from Akman for you, Toby. How do you plan to attract players when there are huge FPS games like Valorant, CS:GO, and Fortnite?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah, the answer is to make something different. You have to make something different. If you're just going to try and make a shooter, you're going to have problems unless you have $100 million budget. and making a shooter that has really unique features is the approach. So that's why I say our game is like a battle royale. It's not a battle royale because there are amazing battle royales out there that you can already go and play, and our game isn't a battle royale. So make it an indie studio as well. That's one of the things you get to do is experiment with new features that giant studios are kind of more dubious of. Wave combat is something that can be really fun. That indie studios had to kind of figure that out, and roguelike. There's so many different like quirky little genres that prop up from indie studios, and they have whole games built around that genre. So yeah, coming up with fun, unique game mechanics and design choices is the way that you build a game that stands apart. You don't have to have 200 million downloads in your opening weekend to make a really cool game that people love. And that's the kind of approach. We also are, as an indie studio, we have really much lower overheads than these giant studios. Our burn rate, the amount that we cost as a studio to operate is significantly lower than some of these giant, Santa Monica with God of War, for example. Incredible game, very expensive game to make. Indie games and AA games and games that are kind of emerging, they don't cost as much to make, and you can play around with unique features, make really sustainable, strong studios, good businesses, and fun games that people haven't seen before. And if you do it right, then you get to build that into a huge experience. Rust is a great example of a game that started off, and now it's the game that people still love. Rust, people still play it. The Forest, another great example. The Forest started out as a 2-man team. I think they got 150k budget from, I want to say, Microsoft, maybe, I can't remember. Small game, and now they're making, that game went on to be a tremendous like horror experience. Awesome game, really fun. Me and my friends still freak each other out playing it sometimes. So yeah, unique features. It's a long answer to your question there, but unique game mechanics is the solution.
Awesome. Toby, Mohamed, Alice, I want to thank you for your time and thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. To everybody listening and tuning in, first of all, thank you for tuning in and listening, of course. But before you go, make sure you go to DappRadar.com, our website, and sign up for the Halloween event. We have a big giveaway with prizes from Crazy Defense Heroes, from the Bornless, from SecondLive, and from Ender's Gate. So please join the giveaway, make an account, start hunting for those Halloween items, and then it's all everything that's left is wishing everybody a happy Halloween, enough candy, and some jump scares. Everybody. Toby, Mohamed, Alice, thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.